All right, good afternoon. Welcome to this training today. Today we are looking at data repositories. What is a data repository? It's a centralized place where data is stored, managed, and maintained. It serves as a hub for collecting, organizing, and sharing data, making it accessible to different stakeholders, including researchers, data scientists, data analysts, and decision makers. So a data repository is like a storeroom where data is stored. So if you are a researcher, you want to get data for your research, you go to such a data repository to extract the data you need. And if you are a data scientist, you want to test your data models. Those places you obtain your data there. So data repository are essential in various fields such as business, science, health, and technology, where large volumes of data are generated and need to be stored securely and accessed efficiently. So we have types of data repository. The first one is called database or databases. A database is a structured collection of data that is stored and accessed electronically. Databases are designed to efficiently store, retrieve, and manage large volume of data, allowing users and applications to interact with the data in an organized way using functions called query. When you want to get a data, you query the data. So databases are essential for a wide range of applications, from simple data storage solutions to complex systems that power an entire enterprise. So what is called database management systems, DBMS, database management systems. So database management systems are a set of programs designed for creating and maintaining the database and storing, extracting, and modifying information from a database. Functions of DBM include data storage, the store and retriever. That is, you use a particular machine mechanism to store, to retrieve, and to manipulate data. And it also includes transaction management. Doing a transaction like all right, so now one of the other function of database is to manage transaction for like in a bank. You know, when you each customer has a database that store the data for all your transaction, your withdrawals, your transfers, any type of transaction done on your account is being stored in a database. There's a table for each customer. So that is one of the function of databases. It manages access to multiple users at the same time. So popular database management systems include MySQL, which is the one that we are going to treat in this. We have something like PostgreSQL, we have Microsoft QL, we have MongoDB. MongoDB is another powerful management system because this one uses both structured and unstructured data. Unlike MySQL is more of a relational database, but MongoDB deals with both relational database and non-relational databases. So let us know what is a relational database. Relational database are database stored in tables. That from the way relation it shows how one variable is related to the other in a tabular form. So that is what we have as a relational database. And each of these table consists of rows and columns. Each row represents a record and each column represents a field or attribute of the record. We are familiar with tables even as in Excel. So example now, let's look at a customer table of a company with customer ID, customer name, customer phone number, customer email address, and residential address. So this is a table here. So we have this customer. This is a customer ID number 1. The name of the customer is Tedo Raymond, and then this is the customer phone number. This is the email address. So this is the example of a table. So another table that can be related to the customer table is a transactional table. So when you now have table that lists all your customers, then you can now create another table which will now keep record of all the transactions that the customer are carrying out. And this will include transaction ID, transaction date, transaction type. What type of transaction? Is it withdrawal? Is it transfer? Is it purchase? Is it airtime? You understand? So the customer and transaction table are related by customer ID. So in the customer table there is customer ID, and in the transaction table there is also customer ID. So that customer ID now is called, when you bring it to, it is called a primary key. It is a primary key because no customer will have more than 2 customer ID, or there are no 2 customers cannot have the same customer ID. So it is a unique identifier for each customer. So it is called a primary key. Take another example, like in the school, you have your matriculation number. 2 students cannot have 1 matriculation number. So a matriculation number is an identifier, is a primary key that identifies each student. You can have 10 students that have many names. 10 students can have a same name, but they cannot have the same matriculation number. So this is a transaction table here. You have the date the transaction occurred, transaction ID, customer ID. So this customer ID that was a primary key in the customer table is also now another key, and it is in this table now. This customer key is called a foreign key. The customer ID in this transaction table now is called a foreign key, because you can from here the customer ID is now relating to the first table. So we have transaction type, the amount, payment method, and so on. So another example of table is a user table on a particular website. If you a website now, we have users. How many people? What are the number of users on the website? How many people are visiting the? How many people have registered on the website? So here now you have email address. This email address now can be considered as a primary key, because 2 customers cannot have the same email address, or 1 customer cannot have 2 email address. So customer ID, email address is a primary key. Password, 2 users can create the same password but unknowing to them. So password cannot be a primary key. So the email address here is a primary key. Then you have date that the customer created the account, and what type of account. For example, now, is it an admin, is it a basic, is it a premium, is it a pro, or is it just a basic customer? So I already explained about those database area management are popular relational database management systems. So we also have non-relational databases. Non-relational databases are designed to handle unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data. They handle any type of data. That is non-relational databases. But for relational databases, they handle only structured data that are related in tables. So this no SQL here means no SQL. The image in response to volume diversity and speed at which data is being generated. So we have types of non-relational databases. We have document stores, we have key value, we have column stores, and all of this. We have graph databases. So how to design a database? The ER model is a conceptual framework used to represent data structure of a database. It consists of entities, object and relationship, association between objects. An entity represents a real world object or concept. If you are a customer is an entity in a database or ordered the day that the transaction was ordered. While an attribute represents the properties of an entity. Example, what is the name of the customer? The name of a customer now is an attribute, or the day that the order was made is attribute. While customer is an entity, order is an entity. So the relationship between these the relationship between entities, relationship represent the association between entities and the attributes. So we have what is called normalization. Normalization is the process of organizing data in a database to reduce redundancy and improve data integrity. There are several levels of normalization, each with its own set of guidelines. So we have first normal, called 1NF, which eliminates duplicate columns and ensures that each column contains atomic values. And what do we mean by atomic value? That is the unique values. So the second normal form, this one ensures that all non-keyed attributes are fully functionally dependent on the primary key. They also have the third normal form, called it 3NF. This one builds on the 2NF by requiring that all non-key attributes are dependent of each other. It removes transitive dependency, ensuring that non-key attributes are only dependent on the primary key. So you can go through all of this. So the advantage of normalization is that it reduces redundancy in the data and it improves data consistency. So and the next thing we are looking at now is what we call data warehouses. A data warehouse now is a large centralized repository that stores structured data from multiple sources. It is an enterprise system used for the analysis or reporting of structured and semi-structured data from multiple sources, such as a point of sale transaction, marketing automation, customer relationship management, and more. A data warehouse is suited for ad hoc analysis as well as custom reporting. It is designed to support business intelligence such as query reporting and data analysis. The characteristics of data warehouse. A data warehouse primarily stores structured data which is organized in tables, just like in terms of relational databases, with a well-defined schemas. They use the process of ETL. ETL means enter, transform, and load. Extract, transform, and load. So when you extract your data, you transform it, and then you load the data. That is what I mean by ETL. So it uses historical data. Data warehouse often store historical data, allowing for trend and analysis and reporting over time. Example of data warehouse system is including Amazon Redshift, Google BigQuery, and Snowflake. So we also have data mods. A data mod is a subset of a data warehouse. When you are inside a data warehouse, you can have another subset of data warehouse, and it's called a data mod. It's designed to serve needs of specific business unit or department. For example, organization will have a data warehouse, and then now create a data mod for specific departments. So a particular department may not have access to the database that is in the other department. Example use case include marketing data mod might store data related to customer demographics, campaign performance, and sales lead. They will also have data lakes. A data lake is a large scalable repository that stores raw processed data in its native format. It can handle structured and unsemi-structured data. So we have big data analytics. Characteristics of big data. Big data is often characterized by 5 V's, and these 5 V's include the volume of the data, the velocity of the data, the variety of the data, the veracity, and the value. So sources of big data include social media, internet of a thing, transactional data, public data, and so on. So that is introduction about data repository. We have data repository, we have databases, we have data warehousing, we have data mods, and data lakes. Then we are now looking at data analysis using SQL. SQL means structured query language. Structured query language is a standard language for managing and manipulating relational databases. It is a powerful tool for data analysis, allowing users to retrieve, filter, and manipulate data efficiently. So SQL is a querying language. When you say query, you to query something, you try to get meaning from something. That is what you mean by query. And is used for managing and manipulating relational databases. So SQL is strictly for relational databases. It is the most commonly used language for interacting with databases due to its simplicity and power. It allows for retrieval of data. It allows for you to insert, to update, to delete, and to make changes in your data. Because you can also create and modify data structures, and you perform analysis. So key concept of databases. We have what we call tables. So tables are used to store databases in an organized form using rows and columns. So the rows and columns, each row is in a table represent a single record, and each column represent attributes. So we have what is called primary key, which I mentioned here. It is a unique identifier for each record in the table. Then we have foreign key. A foreign key is a column that links one table to another. A foreign key is a column that links one table to another. For example, when I was giving example about customer table and transaction table. So in the customer table now, customer ID is a primary key. Then when you come to transaction table, you also find customer ID in the transaction table. So the customer ID in the transaction table is now a foreign key, because is that data that leaks is a customer ID from that transaction table that will link you to the customer table, because you cannot assign customer ID in the customer table separate, and when you come to transaction ID you have it. For example now, your account number in the bank is your primary key. Each customer has a unique account number. Two numbers cannot be assigned, or rather, yes, two customers cannot be assigned one account number. So now when you list the number of customers you have in your bank, you list their name, their account number, their email. So when you want to retrieve the transaction made by customers, is the same account number that you have in the customer table that you will use to retrieve transactions of customers. That is why when you have a complaint, when you call a bank, for example, that you have a maybe there is a dispense error on your account, they will request for your account number, because it's that account number that they will be able to use to retrieve the transactions and then look at it. So that is what we mean by foreign key. So we have in the index structures. Index are structures that improve the speed of data retrieval operation on the table. While numerization is a process of organizing data to minimize redundancy and dependency. Setting up an environment for SQL. I've told you that we're using my SQL here. So to set up MySQL on your system, the first thing is you go to the official website. You go to the official website of MySQL in your browser. You follow this. When you go there, you will see this MySQL installer. The one I installed here is 8.035. So follow the steps I outline in this book to download, and if you have a challenge, let me know. When you go there, they will ask you to log in. You may tell them no, just start the download without signing in, but if you want, you can sign in, and then you run the installer. After downloading the file, you go to your downloads file where your download folder is, and then start the installation. When you click on it, it will now ask you whether you want to make changes. You say yes, and then you start. This is how the installation will be going on. To show you follow the processes, and then final installation. So when they will ask you to choose a developer default, or if you want to this is the first recommended one, you can go with this, or you can go with this full. You can choose full to download full, and then it will install everything for you. You click next, and then you continue. After you finish installing, after you finish all this, you click when it gives you this option, you click execute. When you click execute, you now download the whole of this MySQL server, MySQL workbench, and all of it. So after you have finished the installation, this is what you will see. You click next, and then it will ask you to enter authentication. You complete all of this process. Just follow around and do it, and if there's challenge, let me know. Then you click next. You click you create account. It will ask you to create account. You type your password. The username is usually the host name. The username will be host, and then you click a password. It will ask you to choose a strong password, and then you connect. So this is the last stage. By the time you see this stage, you are now at the end. You click finish, and then it will launch. Congratulations, you have successfully downloaded your MySQL file. So after that, you verify by logging in, putting in the password that you created. To do that, you click on connection. Let me go to MySQL now and show you that. This is MySQL here. So this is what will open for you. So to start working with it, to start working with your SQL, you click here, you click on this root. If you click on it, it's now coming up. The editor is opening. Now it has opened for you. From here, this is the environment where you start creating your table. This is where you edit. You write something, you can say create you say create table. Create table. Most of the ones are already in, they will suggest you create table and call the name of that table. Let's say student table. So create table, call it students, and then you open a bracket, and then name create call the first thing in the table should be matric number. Matric number, and give it is going to be integer, and is going to be a primary key, because then nobody will have, no two students will have the same matric number, so you call that a primary key. Then you create let there be surname, let there be surname, and the surname is going to be a variable character. We know what variable character called it varchar. Let's use capital letters, variable character. And you can assign the number of variable characters. If you want the surname should not be more than 20 characters, you can put 20. That is the highest value the surname should be. And then you put other names. You put other names, and other name is also going to be variable character. This is also a variable character, and it should also be 20 characters. Then another thing, you can say what is the department of the student. The student is from which department. This should also be variable characters. And maybe the department should also not have more than 20, or let's put 50 or 30. And then what is a program? Is it BSc or is it BA or whatever? So you give another define another variable, call it program. And the program is also a variable character. And the program should also have 50 characters. Then you now close the bracket that you open here. this bracket that has been open, you will now close it here. You put a bracket and put a semicolon. You have to put commas. Here you put comma, you come here, you put comma, you put comma here. The last one you will not put a comma because you is the last one that define. If you put a comma in the last one, it will be error. So the last you are listing your variable. This is your first variable, matric number, surname, and the matric number is an integer, and you have set it to be primary key. So this your the table that you have created here now. Now we have created this table, but before we supposed to create a database. Our table is supposed to be in the database, so we come up here and create a database. Say create database and call the database student record. Student record. So that is the name of the database. So we run to run. You come here, look at this, and if you click it, you run the whole thing. If you want to run the particular line that where it is blinking, you click on this. So we click on this. Now we have created a table. So to use the table now, you do what you say, use table. We have created a table. So rather, we have created our database. Now we want to use the database. So say use student record. That is the name of your database, student record. You always put a column. You put a semicolon. So if you do that and run, student records, omitted S, student records, that is the name we gave. So you run it. Yes, student record has been created. So now we can now run this table. We created a database called student records and we want to use it. So now you can create table inside the student record. So we now come here and click on this one. To click on this one, you are executing the whole of we are executing the whole of this particular cell. So we click on this. Yes, now our student record, we have now created this table. We may want to see the table. To see the table that we have created now, we now do a describe table. Say describe table. And the name of this table is student. Describe student. And then run. So this is a table that we have created. We have the feed, we have matric number, source name, order name, department, and program. And the type, the variable type, this is an integer, this is a variable character, as we have stated them. So here now they say null, and a primary key cannot be null. That is why they say null. Here they say no. It has, you must put a value, but other value can be empty. And then this one is a primary key. So this is a table that we have created. We can now add values in the table. We can now add more columns. To add more columns, you do what is called alter table. You alter the table. Let's do that. You say alter table. Then you call the name of the table, student. Alter table call students rather, and then add something. You could say add a column called CGPA. That is a column that you want to add, and the type of variable is that it should be decimal. It should be decimal. It should decimal, and it should have value, like you can have something like 3.2. So it should not be more than 3 digits, and it should not be more than 2 decimal places. So we put 3,2. So the total number of digits the CGPA should contain should be 3, and it should be 2 decimal places. So you run that. You run it here. Yes, now we have altered the table. We have added a value. We have added another column. So if we do describe table now, let's come back to this line and run it again. If we do describe table, you can see that CGPA is now added to the columns. So that is how you can add more columns. You can also delete. You can delete a column if you don't want if you don't want a particular column. You do alter table again. Alter table. The name of the table is students, and then you use this function called drop table. Drop column. You say drop column. You drop a column and state the name of that column. Which column are we dropping? Maybe let's say we are dropping the column that we just added. We are dropping CGPA. We added and we discovered that it's not necessary, so maybe that is installed in case. So you say drop CGPA. And then you run. When you run that, we now go back here and do describe table again to see. If we run this, you see there's no longer CGPA in the columns of the table. So there are something we call query. How to query a table. When you create your database, how do you query it? One of the query is called select. One of the basic query is called select. To select your data value for a table, we use the table that we have created here, and now we select a value from it. We say select from students, and then you specify what you want to select. So you select from table. If you select using star, you do this. You say select from table. Select from, you put this star. Star means you are selecting the whole of the table. Select from, the name of the table is student. So if we run this, it will bring us the whole of this table. We are not supposed to put it here. So you select from student. If we run, it will give us the instead of there's supposed to be S, our table was called students, not student. So select from students, then you come and run. So it now select the table. This is the table. We have no values. Yes, we have not entered any value into the table. So we may begin to put value into our table. Now the next thing is inserting values into the table. To insert, we use the same way. One good thing about my SQL is that you use real language. You use real English that we speak to. So you say insert into. Insert into. Insert into student. Then you specify the value that you want to insert. You insert into student values. You open a bracket and then state the value. The first here is matric number. So maybe you say the matric number for the first student is 001. Then you put a comma and then state the next thing is surname. Maybe you call the name of the student. You say maybe the name is Adewale. That is the surname. Then the other thing is other name. So maybe you say the other name is Chukwu. And then you have department. You say department of statistics. So the program is the Department of Statistics, and then the program. You say the program is BSc. BSc. Then you close the bracket. Meanwhile, you have to put each of these in comma, in quotation mark. Use single quote or double quote. Any of them will work. You have to put all of them in quote. Put these things in quote. But the integer value, you cannot put it in code. It's only those ones that are variable characters. You put them in code. And then put a semicolon here. And then run. We now run the table. Now, if we come back and say describe table, or select from table, let's run this one. Select from table now. Let's run it. If we run this, you see, we have number 1, Adewale. The other name, Chukwu, department statistics. So that is how you can insert values in the table. You can insert multiple values simultaneously.